Warning: contains adult content including harsh language, violence, and sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 17.
Mina remained silent, but her eyes were open now, clouded by tears. I have trouble trusting people. I've been betrayed by my friends and family, girlfriends, even teachers. I didn't even trust my own sister. He took a deep breath. You know, I've always loved animals. I kept buying pets, but each one would vanish almost as soon as I got them. As soon as they left my sight. Even my hamster or my fish. One day, I found a sick and starving kitten by some trash cans. I was 14. I didn't tell anyone I found her. I hid her in my closet and nurtured her back to health. Within a month, she was nice and healthy. Such a spunky kitten, too, always willing to chase the bit of string I dangled in her face while I sat on my bed. Well then, I took her into the backyard when I was sure my parents were busy. I knew they thought I was too irresponsible to keep a pet, when in reality, I was sure I had no part in my missing animals. But my sister bounded up and started shrieking that I had a kitten. You know what happened next?
What?
Said Mina, almost inaudibly. Cotto's face was expressionless, eyes glassy, completely still, even tense. My father came out into the yard, he continued. I faced him holding the kitten, and he ripped her out of my hands, grabbing her by the scruff of her neck, and took a shovel and beat her to death. Mina sat up, staring at him. What? She said, sounding sick to her stomach. Cotto was trying not to cry. He had repressed this memory until he was forced to relive it in last night's dream. I found out that he murdered every single one of my pets, said Cotto, his voice shaking with anger. Every single one. What kind of sicko was he? Mina asked, sounding disgusted. Cotto laughed coldly. That's not all. He swallowed hard, as he was about to tell her another one of his repressed memories. He raped my sister. Mina was now absolutely speechless. Almost through her entire life. Because of it, she became corrupted and, well, there's no word for it. Evil. Didn't you tell your mom? Mina asked, her voice shaking as well. Of course I did, Cotto said angrily. That's when I found out exactly what was going on. When I was conceived, my mother and father were deeply in love, but slowly through my life, he became a drug addict, and he was also a very successful businessman, or more like a con artist. He made a lot of money. My sister, Yumi, was a drunken accident. My father would hit my pregnant mother, so she drank excessively while carrying Yumi in her belly. Father didn't want her at first, but when she got just a little older, that changed. Mother tried to make him stop, but he said, I support this family. I make the money. You don't want me to leave, do you? Leave you to rot in poverty? Cotto felt tears falling from his eyes for the first time in years. Oh, Cotto, choked Mina, as she touched his forearm. Cotto clenched his fist. My mother could have done something. She could have dropped him, but she was too weak. She didn't believe that she could keep the family going, so she let it happen, and took all her anguish out on me. Mina didn't speak. Cotto looked at her and saw she was also crying. That's why I can't trust anyone. I'm sorry that I hurt you, Mina. Cotto, she said, but whatever she wanted to say, she wasn't able to. She broke out in sobs, hugging him tightly. Cotto cried silently, shaking and holding her close. All the while, the voice in his head said, Kill her. You need to kill her. I will show you that you can trust me, Mina exclaimed suddenly, pulling away from him. I will never betray you. I will never lie to you. And I will never, ever hurt you. Liar. I will try my hardest, Mina, said Cotto softly. I just don't want to see you get hurt. Mina smiled weakly. Cotto sighed, standing up. It's late. We need to get some sleep. Yes, Mina replied. Cotto watched her as she pulled the blankets over herself, and then left the room. Even though he was the one who suggested sleep, he couldn't fall asleep at all. He lay on the floor, with Haku sleeping on his chest, staring at the ceiling. He checked the clock every now and then. 1 o'clock, then 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. By 3:30, Cotto had gently lifted Haku from his chest and set him on the pillow. He took the large knife from the kitchen and slipped silently into Mina's room again. He stood over her, holding the knife so tightly his palm was sweating. Do it. I have to do it. She's such an easy target. Cotto stared at her beautiful face, still stained with dry tears. She had understood his pain. She had shared it. She had not thought him less of a man for crying. The knife slipped from his sweaty palm. Cotto gasped and lashed out, gripping the knife by the blade before it hit Mina in the face. He bit his lip, holding back the cries of pain he wanted to unleash, as the blade had sliced his palm. He ran out of the room, shutting Mina's door as softly as he could, and shut himself in the bathroom, wincing and uttering the unmistakable sound of pain. He rinsed his hand, which was even more painful. He wanted to yell, but he forced himself to keep quiet. He desperately searched Mina's cabinets for some kind of gauze. Finally, he found some and wrapped up his hand, which still bled a considerable amount. He panted, looking in the mirror at his pale complexion. He took one slow, deep breath and proceeded to cleaning his blood off the knife and the counter. He left the bathroom, feeling a little weak, putting the knife back. He slid back under the blankets, trying to think of a good reason for having such a severe cut on his hand. See? Said the little voice in his head. This is what happens when you're a pussy. I bet you'll kill her now. In the morning, Mina was terrified at the bloody bandage on Cotto's hand. She demanded to know what could have possibly happened in the middle of the night. I got up out of bed to go to the bathroom, and I guess I wasn't paying attention. I have no idea what I tried to grab, but it sure did wake me up, and I tried to clean it the best I could. She believed the lie. Too trusting. Come here, you dumbass, Mina sighed, taking him to the bathroom. She unwrapped the gauze and cleaned the wound properly, Cotto squirming in pain. She dressed it again, able to keep the blood from escaping too much. It's hard for the palm of your hand to heal, Mina said, smiling at him. It's going to hurt for a while, but it should clot well enough. You're lucky it's not deep enough to need stitches. Cotto smiled, feeling guilty for lying to her. They left the bathroom and Mina collected up her bag. While she was looking through it to make sure she had everything she needed, Cotto stared at the back of her head, grabbing an empty flower vase, ready to smash it over her head. He sighed again. I can't do it. I'm too weak. Cotto gently tapped Mina on the shoulder. She turned, blinking at the vase. It's empty, Cotto pointed out. Why doesn't it have any flowers? Mina shrugged, slinging her bag over her shoulder. No money to buy any, no time to pick any, she said plainly. She smiled, taking the vase and placing it back on the counter. Now, you be good, take care of that hand, and don't strain yourself. She bent slightly, looking at the furry ball on the floor. Bye, Haku, she cooed. Haku looked up, staring at her unblinkingly. Mina left quickly, as she had wasted some time dressing Cotto's wound. Cotto watched her out the window again, feeling a sort of empty sensation in his stomach. He stared at his wrapped hand. How are you going to operate now? He thought sadly. This hand is not fit to work. Plus I'll get blood all over it, and then Mina will ask questions. Cotto stood there staring at his hand. He clenched it. No, he whispered out loud. I've been in worse situations. This is nothing." With that, he fetched the knife from the bathroom and strode out of the apartment, down the street, taking the opposite route than he took yesterday. More people seemed to be in their homes this way, but the curtains were all closed, and there wasn't a sound to be heard. Cotto had no choice but to gamble. He turned, heading to the back of a house and ducking under some plants, keeping both hands in his pockets. To his utter amazement, he found a window hidden behind some overgrown grass that led to the basement of the house. He opened it and slid inside, dropping onto the dusty floor of the dark room. Cotto tiptoed up the stairs and slowly opened the door with his uninjured hand covered by his sleeve. It was dark in the house, but he could hear talking from a room to his left, which he supposed was the living room. As he approached, he saw the flicker of candlelight and heard a man and a woman speaking quietly to each other. Cotto was able to watch them sitting on the couch from behind, while still remaining hidden in the darkness. "Happy anniversary, darling," said the man, his arm around his girl. "I love you, hero," whispered the woman. "It's so sad that we have to spend this day hidden because of the Sakura murderer." Cotto blinked. Was that what they were calling him now? He shook it off and continued to listen. "Don't worry," said the man called Hero. "Even if he does show up, I will protect you. I will kill him myself if I have to, just for you, my precious Miyuki." "Oh, Hero." They leaned in for a kiss, but Cotto stepped out, hands still in his pockets. "How sweet," he said in an acid voice. The couple jumped, staring at him, Hero holding Miyuki tightly. "Who are you?" Hero gasped. "How did you get in here?" Cotto pulled his uninjured hand out of his pocket, holding his trusty blade. He kept the bandaged one in the other pocket. "Not so tough now that I've dropped by, huh?" he sneered. "About to show your girlfriend just how much of a coward you really are in the face of death?" "You!" shuddered Miyuki, gripping the collar of Hiro's shirt very tightly. Cotto smirked. "Me," he said. He took a step closer, and in an instant Hiro pushed Miyuki away from him and shouted, "Run!" As soon as she tried to run past Cotto, however, he tripped her, pinning her to the floor with his foot on her back. "We can't have that now, can we?" said Cotto, kneeling down over the woman's legs. "Now, let's see." He quickly and effectively began to saw through one of her ankles. She screamed in agony, Hiro yelling, frozen to the spot. There was a thump as Miyuki's severed foot dropped onto the floor. He stood looking down at her. "Stay there, woman, or the other foot will be gone too." Miyuki whimpered in pain, laying face down on the floor. Cotto walked calmly towards Hiro, who backed away quickly, looking horrified. "You're just a kid!" he stammered, pointing a shaky finger at him. "Well, I'm an adult, but I am young, yes," replied Cotto. He still had not removed his wounded hand from his pocket. "Stay away from me!" Hiro shouted, backing into a wall. No," said Cotto, laughing. "Now, stand still for a moment, will ya? I'm trying to think of the best way to kill you." "You're sick!" shouted Hiro, and Cotto saw his hand search for something he could use to defend himself. "You deserve to be killed, not us! When they find you, they'll execute you!" "No, really. Keep talking. It's entertaining me." Hiro looked completely astonished at this young man, handsome and smooth-talking, and yet utterly psychotic and sadistic. Cotto's eyes brightened. "Aha!" he said, sounding triumphant. Hiro tensed, trying to find an escape route, but too late. He stuck the knife right in the man's forehead and began to carve very slowly around the cheekbones, and then his chin, and right back around again. Hiro screamed, struggling and twitching. "Hiro!" cried Miyuki, who was watching from the floor. She was sobbing, pulling out her hair in distress. Cotto pried the skin off of the man's face and watched him slide to the floor, still screaming. Cotto rolled his eyes, sighed, and finally stabbed him in the heart. He turned and walked over to Miyuki, who had managed to flip onto her back. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she whimpered, white as a ghost. "Well, it's plain to see I'm really not right in the head," Cotto said apathetically, flipping his knife a few times in his palm. "Blame my parents." With that, he stabbed her in the heart as well.